Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders Midweek.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
You sure are today.
Wow. Man, that feels good.
You woke up on the right side of the bed.
I feel good. I feel rested.
Great. I know we're like a couple of days late with our midweek episode, but we had an exciting week. We had a house guest.
We did.
My awesome 15-year-old son was here for the week, so didn't have a whole lot of time to record.
No, we did not, but now
we're back.
We are here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey.
A little late heading into the weekend, so this will be good for folks to have a little something to listen to this weekend while they're doing their grocery shopping, running errands, maybe outside enjoying the chilly weather.
Yeah. Yes, that
Right?
sounds very good. So you can ruin your day by listening to Mountain Murders.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Dylan.
Wow.
We say fuck a lot.
Oh, fuck. I said
Okay,
it.
before we get started, can I just brag on a TV show that we discovered last night?
I don't even know how to describe the show.
Look, it's been a long time since I've been really excited about a show. Like, wow, this show's great. I can't stop watching it. If you have Peacock, and no, we're not being paid by Peacock, but if they want to sponsor the show, we'll allow it. It's called Poker Face. It's on Peacock, and it is amazing.
It was pretty good.
Did you enjoy it? It's got like a crime spin.
Yes.
You said it reminded you of Columbo.
No, dude, she's totally...
Natasha Lyonne
yes.
is the lead, and she is totally channeling Columbo.
Yeah, it's just not similar to Columbo. She is doing a full-on Columbo impression, which I appreciate because I used to love Columbo as I was forced to watch it with whoever I was with as a small kid.
Right.
And, he always does a thing like, one more thing, one more thing.
I just can't seem to wrap my head around this little detail.
There was that piece of paper in his pocket, and, then he wasn't supposed to have pockets, but, he's got his hands in his pockets. And then, boom, it's like a Matlock moment, People just know they're not dead to rights.
No, it's a great nod, like a throwback to those shows like Matlock, Perry Mason, Columbo.
But with a modern spin.
Right, but then it also has this sort of 70s aesthetic.
Yeah.
Even though it's today. I don't know. It's just really fun. It's an interesting show. Has amazing guests.
Yeah, so basically the basic premise is this girl has the ability to tell within 100% accuracy if someone is telling a lie. And that is the base of the show. And then hijinks ensue. Yeah,
and it has the crime spin. So each episode, there's like a murder or a crime to solve. You gotta watch it.
It's what I appreciate in this day and age of reboots and going through old intellectual properties and ruining them. This is fairly original.
It's great.
It's
so
original.
If you're looking for a fun show to kick off your new year, you gotta check out Poker Face.
Poker Face.
I forgot you're a huge Lady Gaga fan.
Yeah, Gaga. Yeah, bring on the satanic symbolism. Let's go.
Dylan, I thought we would take a departure from some of the sad, depressing true crime news that we recap each week and do something a little different.
We talk about sad, depressing stuff?
Well, we do.
It's true.
We do.
Yes, but so I'm very excited for this story because I love me some history.
Yeah, so I thought we could incorporate a little bit of Appalachian history, and it also has a crime element as well.
Okay.
A lot of folks think the word redneck is derogatory.
Yeah.
Well, I'm taking it back because what people don't realize, and not to get too political because some people get their panties in a wad when we get political on the show.
No.
Is that rednecks are progressive in the traditional historic sense.
And honestly, it's not even political. It's really about the heart and spirit of the labor movement in this country. That's truly where its roots and seeds exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought we could kick off this episode, Dylan, with a little information about the rednecks. So everybody go get yourself a red bandana because we're going to talk about some labor movement issues. Historic Appalachia. It's pretty cool. You ready? I know this excites you. You love this kind of stuff.
Just my underwear just dropped to the floor. You know what I'm saying?
Please put them back on. United Mine Workers Union was founded in 1890 when they teamed up with the National Progressive Union of Miners and Mine Laborers and the Knights of Slave Trader Assembly number 135.
Say that 3 times fast.
I know, right? So 10,000 members from areas like Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Indiana began striking in September of 1897 in the anthracite coal region for better working conditions, the company store, and wages, including paid overtime. The strike lasted over 2 months and became known as the Lattimer Massacre. The strike came at the end of a 4-year crippling depression that began with the Panic of 1893. Now, at the time, anthracite coal pricing sank to its lowest level in 30 years. Workers' wages were tied to the coal price. The Campbell Act mandated a 3 cents per day tax on coal for each unnaturalized worker over the age of 21. And this money could be deducted from the miners' pay. And they were already earning 10 to 15% less than their American counterparts.
Whoa. They're taxing the worker directly?
They're taxing the worker. They're actually taxing the coal company for hiring immigrants. But instead of the company paying that tax,
it's coming out of the worker's wage.
Coming out of the worker's wage, who are already earning less than the American worker.
So I'm going to assume it's probably not changed a whole lot in this genre of work. They're probably exploited. They probably don't have any legal recourse, to turn to if they are being treated poorly or unfairly. So yeah, why not tax them when you have to pay a tax for hiring illegal worker, illegal immigrants, basically?
So let's talk about the struggling economies at the time. Industrialization was disrupting the agricultural and craft economy in Central and Eastern Europe. These factors drove immigrants to the United States in search of jobs. Many took jobs in the mining industry to become the most exploited workers of all. During 1875 through 1887, not through, but 1875 and 1887, I promise I'll get my shit together. I'm just on my first cup of coffee. Okay? Strikes in Northeast Pennsylvania were held by many of the Slavic miners imported as strike breakers. Now, at the time, the English-speaking American miners despised these quote-unquote outsiders.
So they brought in union terms, strike terms, what scabs? Replacement workers to replace the American workers.
Yeah.
But they in turn are trying to strike and push for better conditions as well.
Right.
So I could see the company being aggravated at this point.
So you bring in these Slavic miners, they're the strike breakers, and they're working, taking these American jobs and doing it for way less.
Right.
Right? They're being taxed. They're earning less. So, and of course, the mine companies are happy, the coal mine companies, because they're getting the work done and they're paying out less money.
Yeah, you said 10 to 15% less pay than their American counterpart. And that's a significant amount.
So this pitted, the American worker against the immigrant worker. Much of the same rhetoric we get today when we discuss immigration and jobs.
This country is obviously built on immigrants. Most of us immigrated. Well, I'd say we all immigrated here at some point. We didn't just sprout out of the ground, right? But what's happening now with this conversation, that was a good point, about immigration versus this worker versus that worker, has been going on as long as this country's existed. Certainly after it was incorporated and you started getting industry built up. And there's always been an issue about naturalized citizens versus immigrant labor. This has always happened.
It's true. I mean,
it's nothing new.
New York,
yes.
The Irish, and how they were discriminated against.
Yeah, Irish, Italian. I mean, you just had these large groups of people coming for various reasons in search of work. And this is going to happen again. I mean, when the robots start taking over, the automation, horrible situation, you're going to end up with millions of people displaced globally. and there's just nowhere for them to turn for work. And I don't know what we do at that point. But this is not something new, and it never goes away, it seems like.
It never goes away, Dylan. But the thing is, conditions were harsh across the board, whether you were an American worker or a Slavic worker, right? Mine safety was horrendous. Since 1870, nearly 32,000 miners had died.
Wow.
Miners were required to lease houses owned by the company and see only company-approved doctors for injuries. Now, can you see where there might be problems with this situation or these circumstances?
Now, there's no other industry that I've ever looked into that had quite the grip on the worker that the coal mines did. Their system of company housing, the company store, sometimes paying you in company coins that are only value or have any value through the company and their entities. They have full control of you. So if you start saying, "Hey, wait a minute, my job's unsafe," you are putting your job, your residence, what little money you have saved up, everything on the line. And it's a very scary situation to be in.
Conditions were so dire that Michael Novak wrote in his book, The Guns of Latimer, quote, "They listened for loosened pebbles dropping from the roof. Sometimes no warning came at all. In the anthracite fields, 3 men died every 2 days on average. Nearly every miner bore signs of external injuries, missing a finger, stitches, scars, limps." So for all of this work, they only received pay for the coal hauled from the mines, not how many hours they spent doing it.
Wow.
So they were paid essentially like by the pound.
Yeah.
So even if you were in the mine 18 hours, you didn't get paid by the hour. You got paid for the amount of coal that you were able to derive.
So if you get in a tricky part of the mine where everything slows way down, you're getting way less coal out, takes way longer, your wages actually go down.
Yeah.
That's really messed up.
That's very messed up. In August of 1897, the Honeybrook division of the Lehigh and Wilkes-Barre Coal Company laid off workers at its strip mines. The few remaining employees had their pay drastically reduced, and those who were living in company housing saw an increase in their rent fees. The company's mule stables were moved further away by newly appointed superintendent, a man named Gomer Jones, who thought it a cost-saving measure, which caused mule drivers, who were typically teenagers, very young boys and young men, to travel greater distances to pick up their mules, which was nearly 2 hours a day.
Okay.
So it took them about an hour to go get the mules and then an hour to bring the mules back. And they were not compensated for their time either. So that hour you spent traveling to pick the mules up and bringing the mules back, like you were not compensated for that time.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm missing something to this for him to say it was a cost-saving measure, but moving the mules are your main equipment, and moving your equipment further away from your work site just really doesn't add up for me.
Mule drivers had one of the most dangerous jobs because, as you know, if you've grown up on a farm in Appalachia, in the South, mules are feisty creatures. They often killed miners and drivers by kicking them in the head or chest.
Oh my gosh.
A trained mule was worth about $200. So companies saw the animals as more important than the miners or the mule drivers.
Well, that gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling as a worker, you know?
That your life is worth way less than that of an old mean mule.
Well, they come running and be like, "Hurry up, save the mules." And just leave you in the hole.
I just have to say, and this is totally not related to the story at all, but you know how my brain works. Do you remember, I don't even think they call them this anymore, but every time I hear the word mule, not only do I think about a clog shoe, but I think about when I was a kid, the brown mule was an ice cream treat.
What is wrong with you?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, my papa, my great-grandpa, I would ride the bus to his house, and across the road from him was this, we called it the little store. And it was this teeny tiny little hole-in-the-wall convenience store. But I would get off the school bus, and he'd be like, "Let's slip over there and get us something." Like we were sneaking around, you know, behind my mama's back. But we would go over there and get ice cream like nearly every day. And he would always get a brown mule, which I thought was the fucking weirdest name for an ice cream treat.
Okay.
And it was one of those, like, I want to say it was vanilla ice cream, but it had like the chocolate coating.
Well, yeah, that's your
over it.
classic brown mule.
And I just always thought that was a gross ice cream treat. And my papa loved it. And I would be like, why are you eating that?
Did you ever try it?
I never liked that stuff. I've never liked the vanilla ice cream with the chocolate coating, like the crunchy coating.
Oh my God.
I don't like that.
That really makes me like reassess our relationship.
But why would you call it a brown mule? I guess that's the thing that I never understood was why would you call an ice cream after a weird looking donkey hybrid animal?
Why wouldn't you call it a brown mule?
I don't know.
And of course, mules, if anyone out there doesn't know, is a donkey horse cross, and they are always sterile.
Yeah.
So you must mules cannot reproduce themselves. You must continue to cross the donkey and the horse.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. See what happens? You end up with this larger animal, basically, that has the attitude of a donkey, because donkeys are feisty.
They are.
People often leave them with their herd to protect them from wolves and various other predators. Yeah. Yeah, the little donkey will go off.
A little mean ass donkey, but they're so damn cute.
They're so damn cute. And then you cross it with some big sturdy horse, a trail horse or something like that.
Like a Tennessee stud.
Or quarter horse, I guess. I don't know. Somebody out there's like, he don't know nothing about no damn old mules. And then you end up with this large, very strong, sturdy animal.
With a snotty attitude.
With a pissy attitude.
It's a little curmudgeonly creature.
It's almost like if you took a little tiny, one of these little badass chihuahuas or little Rufus here, he's a little tiny dog, with all the gusto and confidence of a Superman, and put him into a Rottweiler's body.
Oh, God.
That would be uncontrollable.
He would, yeah. I mean, he's already 6 pounds of uncontrollable viciousness. He's like a trained attack dog, right?
Yeah, but his little mouth's so little he can't do any damage, and he'd be like, nyah, nyah, nyah. And you're like, okay, Rufus, calm down.
Yeah.
But if he was an 80-pound Rottweiler body, you would be like, oh my God, this is dangerous.
Okay, I think we've bored people by now. Okay, enough with ice cream and the dog talk.
You the one that started
I
it.
know. 25 to 35 teenagers were drivers when the strike took place on August 14th of 1897. Most of the drivers had only been paid about $300 in 12 months. So when these 25 to 35 mule drivers decide they're going to start striking, Jones began laying off their friends. This guy, Gomer Jones. He's like, oh yeah, you want to strike? You don't like making $300 in 12 months? I'll show you.
Okay, so this guy's name is Gomer Jones. It doesn't surprise me that he's likely going to make poor decisions.
After a fight broke out between the drivers and Jones, he's actually got into like a physical altercation over this. Jones grabbed a crowbar and began hitting one of the miners, a guy named John Bowden. Now he doubles over. He's being attacked. Then he starts to attack Jones. And that's when the other strikers rush and they're able to get this crowbar from Jones. Because Jones is like hitting this guy. It's just a scene, right? All because of unpaid wages and poor conditions.
Yes. Record profits are unpaid wages and benefits to employees. Sorry.
Well,
Thank
the
you.
strikers were able to wrestle this crowbar away from Jones. They throw him to the ground and they began viciously beating him until another supervisor named Oliver Welsh ordered them to stop. He fired the men, then took Jones away. Welsh ended up getting 8 stitches after a rock was thrown at him and cut his head. So as you can see, I mean, this is very unprofessional. This is not okay. Can you imagine this kind of violence in the workplace today?
No, and this is the kind of violence that festers. You have one event like this, and they're already. You can imagine if the drivers aren't getting paid to that degree, other workers are not getting paid right as well, or something. Everyone's getting disgruntled. You have this energy; it just festers, and then the mine bosses insist you continue to work, even though these conditions are already not good, even at the best of times. And so it's just getting more and more tension.
Right. You've had all these problems. You've had strikes. You've had issues with the
safety.
American workers pitted against the immigrants. I mean, you've had all these issues, but it was really these mule drivers that sparked this Lattimer strike. We're going to talk about this. It's very interesting, Dylan. So after hearing of this violence perpetrated by the company, nearly 2,000 more miners from the strip mines and underground coal mines walk out.
Solidarity.
Yes, which we need more of. in
We
this world.
we do need more of
Because
that.
we have mostly division these days.
Well, and these old stories of labor and labor wars remind me of how far we've come.
Yeah.
We've come this far because of people like this back in the day.
I mean, this kind of news really puts a fire in my belly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really passionate about we need to unite and like fight for better rights and wages,
We
and
have
work conditions.
we truly do have all the power as
We
workers.
do, and we've been so beaten down, or I don't know, we've just become very complacent in thinking that like, oh well, those people deserve to earn less money, but we don't care about these billionaire CEOs posting record profits while workers don't get shit.
That doesn't add up for me. We'll talk about at the end of the show some of the things in the labor market that doesn't add up for me right now.
Yeah.
But continue.
So by August 18th, nearly all of the miners had joined the union, because before you didn't have a lot of union members, but now they're all joining the union, and they shut down the mines across this region in Pennsylvania. Bowden swore to have Gomer Jones arrested. He handed over the crowbar to the Squire daily as evidence. Jones was arrested the following day by the constable. The first wave of the strike ended on August 23rd after the company agreed to compensate for overtime wages that allow employees to see doctors of their choice when injured and bring the wages up to what they called regional standards. Also, these employees were no longer forced to live in company housing.
Wow, these are some very, very big concessions they're making. The company's making to improve. Well, it's because, see, that's the thing. Just one brief flash of solidarity and labor against the company, and the company knows that we can't continue down. We shouldn't continue down that path because it's just going to get worse for them.
Only a few days later, on August 25th, teens who worked as breaker boys, a job which was breaking coal by hand, the hard work, at the A.S. Wickel Company, began striking for better wages. The company attempted to use the Slavic workers instead. Once again, this old tactic of, oh yeah, well, we'll hire these Slavic workers to come in. We'll pay them less. They'll do the work. They won't complain. But the Slavic workers had had enough, and they joined the union.
Nice.
Yes. So about 3 days later, the company agreed to the workers' demands and ended the strike. Yet when new rates were published on September 1st, only a few workers would receive pay raises. The company reneged on most of their promises, prompting more strikes to resume. And by September 3rd, 3,000 workers marched on 4 mines, shutting them down. Just goes to show, we have the power, Dylan.
See, in these old school strikes, they literally basically surround the place and threat anyone that tries to cross the line. They're going to probably get your ass whooped, right? At least. And so that's what kills me is more than likely the company's losing much more money by being completely shut down than just giving the people a fair wage.
Yeah. And we're the workers, and without us, they can't survive. So we really do have the power. I don't know why people don't seize it. And right now is the perfect time in this job market.
As workers and consumers, we have all the power the way our economy is structured. I don't know.
It kills me. Within 5 days, between 8,000 to 10,000 miners were on strike. By September 8th, the company has asked the sheriff to shut down the protest by arresting strikers, but he refused. The miners were able to shut down several mines in the region, with miners beginning an unarmed, peaceful march to Lattimer to support the newly formed union there. And this is Lattimer, Pennsylvania, by the way. On September 10th, the 400 or so miners of Polish, Slavic, and Lithuanian descent marched north of Hazleton with the intention of hopefully closing 3 collieries. I can't say that.
That's a place where they do stuff to coal, right?
Collieries operated by the Calvin Purdy Company. As the miners approached, the sheriff from Luzerne County, James Martin, and a posse of 86 deputies, which also included newly deputized party companymen and members of the local coal and iron police. By the way, they are armed with rifles, pistols, and shotguns, are waiting for these peaceful miners.
So in one community, you have the sheriff who's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to shut this down because it's probably going to cause me more problems. These are people I know." But in this community, they've had time to get ready. They've loaded up the police ranks, quote unquote, with the company men, company thugs, right?
Yeah.
So this is a very bad situation.
An altercation broke out and shots were fired. The posse then opened fire at point blank range on these miners. As the miners fled, the posse shot many in the back. 25 were killed and 30 were wounded. All of these victims were immigrants.
And I think that might be why it popped off. Xenophobia may have played a hand here. They're like, well, that's a bunch of immigrants. Screw them. They're not our neighbors.
Although the Union had actually been responsible for lobbying the passage of the Campbell Act, more immigrants joined the Union. And if you remember, the Campbell Act is where the immigrants' pay was tapped to pay that tax.
Yeah.
But the immigrants are like, you know what? We don't care. We're still joining, right? So after the strike, there was civil unrest in the area. The sheriff called for the Pennsylvania National Guard to help restore order in the region, and around 2,500 troops were deployed. On September 11th, Slavic community leaders held a rally which raised money for the families affected by the massacre, and they also demanded justice. A mob of miners went to the mine superintendent Gomer Jones's home, but they could not find him. Right? So you know what they did instead? They burned that motherfucker's house to the ground.
Oh, damn.
Yes. 4 funerals were held for mining victims on September 13th. Nearly 3,000 people attended. The mother of a 17-year-old victim, John Fuda, she called for vengeance and said nothing but the blood of Sheriff Martin and his posse would atone for the wrong she had suffered. The Straz, a Slavic newspaper, used a phrase from Lincoln's Gettysburg Address to express hope for those who had died at Lattimer. Quote, "May their death not be in vain. May they become the patron saints of the working people in America." And I love that.
That's a call to arms.
That's pretty awesome, right? On September 20th, a group of angry women, this is my favorite part of the story, Dylan, angry women, okay, armed with fire pokers and rolling pins,
Oh my gosh.
led 150 men and boys to the McAdoo coal workers to shut it down. But they were immediately stopped by the National Guardsmen. 4 days later, the guard was withdrawn. But I love that these angry women were just like, come on, boys. And they got their fire pokers and their rolling pins.
Hey, you can knock somebody out with a damn rolling pin.
You can. Martin and 73 deputies from the posse were tried for murder of one coal miner, Michael Cheslog. The defendants claimed the miners refused an order to disperse and charged on the sheriff instead. Yet all the evidence suggested the miners were shot in the back. But the sheriff and his deputies were acquitted.
Oh, imagine that.
Imagine that. 3 years later, the union was able to win large wage increases and safety improvements for miners throughout the region. John Mitchell, who was only in his 20s at the time, became president of the National Union following his efforts during the Lattimer strikes. And if you know anything about unions, I mean, he's a really big, known, kind of famous historic leader in the workers' rights movement.
Okay.
So that is the Lattimer Massacre, Dylan.
Well, it's just, like I said, these people, the Blair Mountain Wars and all these big events.
We're going to cover that.
That's an incredible.
We're going to cover that this year.
Mother Jones.
I have it on my list.
All that. These are huge events in our history in the labor movement. And they literally put their lives on the line for better working conditions. I mean, that's all they wanted. Fair working conditions. Safer working conditions. And it seems like in our lifetime, we've watched, I think one of the bigger events in my life, I remember, is Reagan getting involved in the air traffic controller strike and, kind of breaking their back, if you will. And and slowly since then, it seems to me, there's been an attack on labor. And to the point where, just wages staying stagnant. For how many decades?
30, 40 years.
It's like Heather was talking the other day. we passed some little apartment she had or something back in the day, and she was like, that place was a cool little spot. It was I had this job making $10 an hour, and it was $375 a month. So I couldn't make it on that job, and she was just kind of reminiscing, and then she just paused and stopped and was like, that's basically the same wage that people are trying to live on now, but now that same apartment is $1,000. So I mean, it's just labor has been attacked and drove down and driven down, and to the point where you're starting to see us bubble back up as workers, but in a kind of a modern twist, a different way.
And can we just talk about the $10 an hour job? I was an office manager at a magazine.
Wow.
Okay. So I was responsible for ads, advertising. I had an advertising person, but I was responsible for all of the contracts, all of the administrative paperwork as far as advertising in this magazine, helping the editor, get the layout and all the contents. We had a lot of freelance writers and photographers, making sure that all those deadlines were met. Then, of course, handling the shipping of these published magazines, like bulk shipping all over Appalachia, really. I mean, it was a lot of work. And of course, they wanted somebody with a college degree and, like some sort of background in that area, blah, blah, blah. But then they paid me $10 an hour. And looking back, I'm like, I should have been like, hell no. But the thing is, when you go on a job site, there's still administrative jobs that are paying $10 an hour.
Well, I'm sure at that time, 10 may have seemed like a bit of a higher wage.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
this
sure
was many years ago.
people were making maybe $6-7, on other jobs. So, but still, I guess the point is, our productivity's never stopped going up as workers. People want to be the cliche lazy American workers. We actually produce more profit by an hour of our labor nowadays than we ever have in our existence as a country. But then the wages used to be connected to productivity. As productivity went up, wages came up, and that stayed in concert. And somewhere about the late 70s, early 80s, they really started separating. Our productivity kept going up, wages remained stagnant.
Unless
and
you're
flat.
the top end of the company, your CEO, your vice president, your management, your wages increase.
Well, the administrative, on
Like
the administrative
40
side.
times.
Yes.
A CEO is making 40 times more than they made 30 years ago.
Well, yeah,
But the worker is making the same amount of money. So how is that fair?
used to your average CEO was made 40 times what the average worker made. Now it's 400 times.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
So their rates and profits have went up for a tenfold plus.
40, I'm 400, sorry.
Yeah, so they went up 10 plus fold, and then the workers continue we're out here struggling to buy butter and eggs. I mean, I just don't. You really see it kind of growing again. This.
You've been seeing more groups trying to organize a union. Baristas, the one that comes to my mind is Starbucks.
Fast food workers.
They are trying to unionize.
Yes, and
we're seeing these companies resist.
I'm a member of a union. I'm a member of the steel workers. I work in the paper industry, and now the unions have their own issues. They get big and international, and you feel disconnected, like they're not really representing your rights. But I tell you what, I'll take a soft union over no union in this country, in this work environment.
Well, yeah, there have been times when you come to me and you're complaining,
No.
You're bitching about stuff. And I say to you, have you forgotten what it's like to work outside of a union job? Because they can just fire you. We live in an at-will state where an employer can fire you and they don't even have to give you a reason.
No, they could be like, I hit your big dumb head. And I'll be like, what? And I go to, try to go to the labor board, and they're like, well, you do have a big dumb head, and that's the end of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And most workers don't have those protections where you get, there are steps that have to be taken before you can be let go or punished. I mean, plus you have, these benefits and you're getting wage increase. I mean, so there's a lot of positives. Even if you don't like your job, if you're part of a union, it's still better than being not part of a union.
It really is.
In my opinion.
No, it really is.
because sometimes I look at you and think, are you crazy? Have you been out in the real world, Dylan? Because
Yeah, it's true.
and
And
I
I
have
mean,
to and I have to explain to you, like, do you not realize that? Think of all the shit I've put up with in a non-union job, and you're like, oh yeah, okay.
yeah, and I'm in one of the last true middle class blue collar jobs, and a great rate of pay and all that. Now, granted, it's a two-way street. I work swing shifts. I work 18-hour shifts. I work 24-hour shifts. I work 20 days in a row. So
No, your job sucks.
it's a two-way
There's no
street.
denying it. Fucking sucks.
There's benefits for the employee, but what I do benefits the company, and that's how that relationship's supposed to work.
Reciprocal.
Yes, and I just don't understand in this. If we all stuck together and said, you know what, I'm tired of you saying that the pandemic and inflation and all this is the reason for higher prices. But if that's the case, if you're a big company, I'll say this
Well,
right
they've
quick.
already proven.
Well, yeah, if you're a big
that
company,
this inflation
It's
is
price gouging.
is price gouging, and that
Yes.
they're making money off of us and lining their pockets, and there's no real reason for it.
if your cost have went up because you're covering supply chain issues, labor issues, higher cost issues of raw ingredients, all that, you should not turn in record profits. You should turn in similar profits. I mean, am I right?
Yeah.
That's straightforward.
Well-
Katie Porter has proven this with her beautiful charts on the congressional floor. So look her up, look her videos
Yeah,
up.
I know people were mad that she was like reading a book when they were voting for that McCarthy speaker or whatever, and that she was reading a book that some people found inappropriate.
What was the book? Do you know?
Oh, like The Art of Not Giving a Fuck or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, I've listened to that audiobook on
That's
like
great.
an audiobook like a couple years ago, but I can't even remember. It's like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck or something like that. And she's like, well, I actually happened to pick this book up from my little free library on the corner when I was walking from my basement studio apartment.
Go.
And I was like, you go, girl.
I love
I know like some people don't like her, but I find her
Look,
amazing.
And and by the way, I'm not for, while we're semi-political, I'm not for the whole system's fucked. Right?
Oh,
The
no.
whole system's broken. The money's funneling to the top 1% at a rate we've never seen in our existence. And it simply cannot continue this way. There will be, I think a lot of those social unrest situations and stuff and riots for various social reasons are at its heart. The frustration that a lot of those people are feeling is from the labor economic side. I really believe that. And I'm not saying they don't care about those issues that they're raising hell about, but I think their true fire is coming from the economic pressures and stuff that they're feeling, and they don't realize it.
Well, this economy, I don't feel like can sustain
It cannot.
a whole lot longer.
It is going to crumble under its own weight.
Because Dylan has decided he's going to buy the bulk eggs at Walmart. They were selling 60 eggs for $20.
Yeah.
And he was going to buy some of these eggs and start selling them illegally out of the back of his car.
Why not? It was 60 eggs for $20, or I buy 12 eggs for $7. I'm no math guy, but that doesn't add up for me. I'll start giving people a double up, They come to me and get 10 eggs, and then they might start selling single eggs to people. You only need 1 egg for that recipe?
Oh my gosh. I
What
have
you
a great
want,
idea,
grade A?
Dylan. We'll call it the Dylan dozen.
Yeah.
And it's too short of a real dozen,
Okay.
right? Because you're always a day late and $1 short.
Okay.
So we're going to give people 10 eggs instead of 12, but we're calling it the Dylan dozen. What do you think?
But it's got to be at a great rate.
Well, of course. Yeah. Because you're the kind of guy that wants to pass on a good value to your customers.
I do, and that's why I'll never make it in
Because
business.
you have ethics. Exactly.
And if we do hire any workers, I want it to be ethical, safe working practices, instituted here at Dylan's Dozens.
A living wage.
A living wage. That's all we're just trying to make it. Let's just say I want to be the Henry Ford of eggs. I want the people who are moving my eggs around to be able to buy my eggs.
You know what? I want the chicken to have fair, ethical working conditions as well.
Well, they must.
I don't want my chickens to be sodomized or abused.
No, quit sodomizing the chickens.
I know.
Is
That's
this
what I'm
happening?
saying. I'm saying
Is that an
I
epidemic?
want ethics in my chicken producing, my egg producing.
Ethical eggs. I think you just named the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just in the disclaimer on the bottom with the no GMOs, organic, be like not sodomized.
You know, I would start a fertility clinic and call it Ethical Eggs.
Oh, dude. Okay.
Right.
No. Okay. Somebody's going to steal that.
Somebody's going to be probably pissed off about that.
Okay. I know that was a little different, but you know what? I think in this.
Well, I just thought it was kind of a bit of interesting Appalachian
It is.
history.
And
Why not talk about
you
it?
got history, you got Appalachia,
You got murder.
you got murder, and you got people taking
Strong
it to the
women with
company.
fire pokers and
rolling
rolling
pins.
pins.
Yeah.
Ladies, let's grab our fire pokers and our rolling pins. And the next time we have a women's march, we're going to show up with these items.
Is that sexist? Why can't
How?
they have a briefcase? Why's it got to be a rolling pin? Heather's
I
like,
would rather knock the hell out of somebody with a damn cast iron or a rolling pin than a briefcase, Dylan.
Heather said, I'm just going for the most, the optimal weapon.
It is.
Okay.
I can swing on somebody with a rolling pin
It's true.
or a fire poker.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget the new series, Poker Face.
I know.
See how it came all the way
You
around?
have to check that show out.
No, it's great.
We love it.
Alrighty.
We binged the first 4 episodes last night.
All right, we got more work to do. We're going to flit on to other episodes.
Oh, it's a
of
day of
episodes.
recording. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. If you have any cases or information, anything you'd like to share with Mountain Murders, feel free to do that at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our amazing patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast, where you can subscribe, get ad-free episodes, become a member of our Discord chat. And depending on the tier, you can also access our other podcasts and get bonus content as well. We like to publish Patreon episodes throughout the month.
There is a lot of extra content, so it's not a one-way street with your support.
Oh no, we've got 4 years of Patreon content. So if you subscribe and you're looking for some content and you've caught up on all of your Mountain Murders, you're still going to have so much bonus content to go through.
Yes, and for as little as $3, you can support us directly, and that does keep the lights on here in the Mountain Murder Studio. We really do appreciate it, and we just appreciate everyone, and you continue to listen.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram at Appalachian True Crime. You can find us on Twitter at Mountain Murders and find us on TikTok at Mountain Murders Podcast. Okay, Dylan, I'm going to get you strapped in for another recording session. How's that sound?
Okay, you're going to have to clean me up first.
Bye.